because I'm just so excited that you all are here to celebrate with us. And yeah, so get ready to hear me talk. So, Superior Snapshot. I wanted to start off by giving a little bit of background of the organization. I want to start off by giving a little bit of background about the organization. So again, my name is Jane and I'm the director of Citizens for Safe and Clean Lake Superior. I've been in this position since about last August, so been around for a minute, and I've been able to carry the organization through its transitionary period after our win against the rocket launch site. I would not have been able to do any of what I've done this year without the support of my really awesome team. So we hire an intern each semester. We hire an NMU student to help with communications and outreach. So that intern, you met her at the door. Her name's Amanda, and she's sitting over there. So Amanda, if you could stand up and wave, please. Thanks, Amanda. And then I'm going to go through and name our board members. So when I call, for those of you who are here tonight, when I call your name, please stand up and wave as well. So you already met our president, Denny Ferraro. Our vice president is none other than Kay Hebel. Our treasurer is Graham Lund. He couldn't make it tonight, but he's awesome. Our secretary is Kim Ferraro. She's wonderful. And our directors are Puck Bates, Michael Lynn Wellman, Phil Backett, and Solomon Kronberg. So thank you to our board members. And we do have one open seat on our board right now, so I say that to you with a little wink, because we're looking for a community member to fill that spot. So if you are passionate about what our organization does and you're interested in a board position, reach out to one of us. We'd love to hear from you. And now to talk about the organization. Our mission is to protect the shoreline, freshwater, and ecological integrity of Lake Superior and its watershed in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and to be an advocate for the Lake Superior region by fostering community action to preserve the quality of life provided by this coastal environment for generations to come. So I talked really nicely about our mission and our board, and I wanted to also give a quick financial snapshot over the past year. So in 2023, we were able to bring in $79,000, 310 in total fundraising. Most of that was thanks to our many generous donors, some of which are here tonight, so thank you so much for your contributions. We also received three small grants in 2023. One came from the Community Foundation, which partially funded our Pocket Park project, which I'll talk about in a minute. And two came from Freshwater Future, one of which came in the form of technical assistance from a marketing firm, and one which partially funded the tail end of the Stop the Rocket campaign. And I put the January through June number right here to help you compare our fundraising last year to how we're doing so far this year. So in 2024, so far, we brought in almost $50,000. Of that, $12,441 comes once again from our generous donors, so thank you. The other $38,000-ish comes because of 4 successful grant applications this year. So I want to just shout out those organizations really quickly because we couldn't do the work we do without this funding. So we're thankful to the UP Environmental Coalition for granting $7,000 and the Community Foundation of Marquette County for granting $4,335 toward our native plant garden project in Big Bay. And we're also thankful to the Americana Foundation for granting $25,000 and Freshwater Future $2,200 toward our ongoing work protecting Marquette County wetlands. Really successful so far in terms of grant funding, but we're still counting on the support of our donors to continue funding our work. We're working toward achieving a balance of funding sources around 50-50 between grants and donations. So we ask that if you like what we do, please consider making a donation to our organization this year so we can keep doing this work. All right, now let's talk about the cool stuff. So our vision is We envision a Lake Superior watershed free from threats to its health and safety for all who it sustains. So how do we work towards that vision? All of our projects center around three main activities: outreach, advocacy, and community engagement. So when I say outreach, I mean events, farmers markets, and email newsletters, that kind of thing. We've hosted or been a part of 15 events over the past year, the most recent of which was a guided hike at Wetmore Bog this past Monday, which is pictured right here, which was really awesome, and we were able to explore the different species living in Wetmore Bog and also talk about why our local wetlands need protection. Talking about advocacy, we talk about the things that matter to the Superior watershed. So over the past year, we've been advocating for the protection of our watershed in the face of wetland destruction, mining threats, and an industrial rocket launch site. We are unique because of our ability to address these many different issues in the Superior watershed and our ability to build relationships with community partners to combat those issues. And through all of this, we couldn't exist and wouldn't want to without the engagement and support of this community. All of our events are community focused and meant to bring awareness and benefit to the residents of the Superior watershed, and we couldn't be more thankful for our community partners who've been collaborating with us on many of these projects. So let's talk about what that's looked like over the past year. I'm not going to spend any time talking about Stop the Rocket, but I did want to put a slide up there so you guys, in case you forgot. But one thing we've really been focusing on is through the Stop the Rocket campaign, we built a really strong connection to the community and environment out in Big Bay. So we're proud to be doing some work there that benefits both the environment and the community. In 2023, we completed the construction of 3 pocket parks in downtown Big Bay. Justin Savu of Wilson Creek Woodsmithing made some beautiful benches and planters for them, and we planted native plants in those planters. So that photo here is the pocket parks. And then this year, we're currently working on another project in Big Bay, turning the Big Bay Pathway Trailhead into a native plant garden and outdoor classroom. Both of these projects have centered around native plants because that's what's meant to be in these areas. Native plants benefit pollinators, help reduce erosion and flooding impacts, and are more drought tolerant than non-native plants because of their deep root systems. So we're happy to be able to bring those benefits and biodiversity to these areas. We're also really excited about the outdoor classroom aspect of this project. We'll be installing benches in the trailhead area, which will be used by Powell Township Schools classes and other community members as well. It's a very collaborative project, and we've been working on this since May, and we've made a ton of progress. We've hosted 3 community work days so far, and we have another one coming up this Saturday at 10 a.m. if any of you are around. So just to touch on how far these projects reach in terms of community impact, I again recognize our funders, the UP Environmental Coalition and the Community Foundation of Marquette County. And then our project partners are Powell Township Parks and Recreation, Powell Township School, and the Marquette County Conservation District. And we couldn't be more thankful for all of their guidance and help on this project. And then we've really been focusing on supporting local with this project, so I just wanted to list those real quick. We got basically all of our plants for the area from the Conservation District's annual plant sale, and they get their plants from UP native plants, so it's local and local. We went through Justin Savu again of Wilson Creek Woodsmithing for the benches for the project. We got compost from Partridge Creek Compost and a couple other local sources. So thanks to them. Brandon Snyder of North Country Tree Care was gracious enough to give us some wood chips for the project, and we got gravel from Associated Ready Mix in Marquette. So really awesome local impact. So now let's talk about what we've been doing in terms of wetland protection. I've touched on that briefly a couple of times. So first, I want to address the question of why are wetlands important? So wetlands are areas of land that are saturated or inundated with water for a majority of the year or long enough to support wetland vegetation. Because of that constant saturation, wetlands have gained the nickname of nature's kidneys. They're a really great water filter, Because of the constant inundation in wetlands, they drain really slowly and they're able to capture pollutants and excess nutrients before they reach the groundwater or Lake Superior. They're also really great at mitigating erosion and flooding impacts because they can absorb and hold large amounts of water. Oh man, sorry, I lost myself. These reasons are a really important piece of why coastal wetlands in particular are really important. Wetlands also act as a surprisingly great carbon sink. Because of the anaerobic nature of the ecosystems, decomposition happens really slowly, which traps carbon and other greenhouse gases in wetland soils. And they're able to store significantly more carbon than upland forest soils. And it's estimated that although wetlands only make up about 5 to 8% of US land mass, they store between 20 and 30% of the US's soil carbon. Which is crazy. They also serve as hubs of biodiversity by providing habitat for many critical species. So we knew we wanted to work on protecting our local wetlands, and one of the first ways we were able to support wetland protection was last year when we were able to contribute to the installation of this boardwalk at Eagles Nest Community Forest, a coastal wetland preserve owned by our friends at the Superior Watershed Partnership. Here shows all of us at a work day last year where we collaborated on the finishing touches on the trail. Many of us have been to beautiful wetland preserves like this one. And so you might ask, why do wetlands need policy protection? And this is where the tone turns dark a little bit. So the unfortunate truth is that wetlands have been historically devalued and deregulated in this country and the world. Across the US, we've lost about half of our historic wetlands due to agriculture, development, and industry. In Marquette County and the whole UP is very rich in wetlands, so much so that they once made up about a third of the land in Marquette County. However, we've seen the destruction of over 45,000 acres of wetlands in the county, and of that 45,000, about half of the impacts are concentrated in the coastal municipalities. So that's Powell Township, Marquette Township, the city of Marquette, and Chocolate Township. That's half of the wetland destruction happening in just 4 of 22 municipalities in Marquette County. And that's really scary, especially when we reconsider how critical coastal wetlands in particular are. So we know wetlands do be struggling. I wanted to touch quick on the federal and state regulations that are in place for wetlands. And I apologize for the wordiness of the next couple of slides, but I hope you'll stay with me. At the federal level, wetlands are regulated by Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. Michigan is a special state in this regard because we share joint jurisdiction over that regulation, which means Michigan's Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, or EGLE, administers the federal wetland program. Recently, though, there have been 2 Supreme Court opinions that have put federal protections for wetlands in a bit of limbo. First, we have Sackett v. EPA, which was decided last year and essentially stripped federal protections for almost half of the nation's wetlands. They decided that in order for wetlands to be protected under the Clean Water Act, they must have a continuous surface connection with a navigable body of water, which means there must be visible water at the surface between a wetland and a lake or stream that you can put a boat in. This decision is controversial because it kind of disregards hydrology. Many of us know that, in fact, water often travels underground and connects wetlands to lakes and streams, even if there isn't water visible on the surface. The second case, which was decided just a couple of weeks ago, is Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo. In that case, the court overturned the Chevron precedent and essentially put administrative laws we know it in a bit of a weird spot. To briefly explain Chevron deference, it's a rule that came out of a 1984 landmark Supreme Court ruling and says that judges should defer to federal agencies like the EPA or the CDC and others in interpreting ambiguous parts of statutes. Now, without Chevron deference, ambiguous statutes like the Clean Water Act or the Clean Air Act will now be interpreted by the federal court system essentially empowering federal judges to act as scientists, as medical experts, and as historians, which will likely lead to further deregulation. Will likely lead to further deregulation. Luckily, in Michigan, we have somewhat strong wetland protections. Wetlands are regulated by EGLE through parts 323 and 303 of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act. And it's essentially a permit system. So this means in order to drain, fill, develop, or otherwise impact a wetland, you have to get a permit first from EGLE. However, these regulations only apply to wetlands that are connected to or within 1,000 feet of a Great Lake, connected to or within 500 feet of inland lakes or streams, or greater than 5 acres in size. So this leaves out a pretty significant portion of wetlands in Michigan, which are smaller, isolated wetlands, which makes up a pretty significant amount. So that's where local protections can come into play. Local governments can build wetland protections into their zoning ordinances through a natural features buffer, or they can adopt a separate wetland protection ordinance to establish a local program for wetland regulation. EGLE actually encourages local governments to do this, but despite that, only one of our 22 municipalities in Marquette County has adopted one of those measures, and that's the city of Marquette, which has a natural features buffer that includes wetlands. That's why we started this wetlands protection campaign. So this year and in the coming couple of years, we're working to build community understanding of and appreciation for the wetlands in Marquette County. And we're doing a comprehensive policy analysis in those coastal townships that are seeing the most wetland loss. So Powell Township, Marquette Township, and Chocolate Township. So the benefits of a local ordinance include that, of course, they give power to local governments to have a say in the development of their wetland resources rather than deferring to the state or federal permitting system, which we can't always rely on. Also, local governments are allowed to regulate wetlands less than 5 acres in size, thus filling the gap left by state rules. They're able to regulate wetlands under 2 acres as well, but they have to prove that those wetlands are critical to the local ecosystem in order to do so. And if nothing else, having local wetland protections in place just further decentivizes development in wetlands due to the increased permitting costs of that. So we're really excited to be working on this project, and we know that if we're able to get some more local protections put in place, we'll be preventing future wetland loss in Marquette County. Thanks for sticking with me through those couple of wordy slides. I apologize again. Now, just to the last piece of my presentation, I'm going to talk about a couple of mining threats that we have responded to in the past year. So it's one really important, though sometimes difficult to talk about thing. For the sake of time, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the 2 mining threats that we've been focusing on so you can see where we're at. So first is the Tilden Mine expansion. Most of you are likely familiar with the Tilden Mine. It's an open pit iron mine located south of Ishpeming in the Schweitzer Creek watershed. The mine is owned by Cleveland Cliffs, and it's reaching the end of its mine life. So Cliffs wants to extend the life of the mine, and to do so, they applied for a permit from Michigan Eagle to fill 77.9 acres of wetlands adjacent to the mine with waste rock. Wetlands are something we're pretty passionate about, so we had many reasons to want to scrutinize the application. And I want to give a quick shout out to Kathleen and Steve from UPEX Mining Action Group. Kathleen, I believe, is here, so thanks, Kathleen, because they compiled a very comprehensive list of comments and evidence of Cliff's unfitness for the permit. So we were able to work with them and Freshwater Future to get the word out about the permit and the public comment period, and over 500 people from this area submitted public comments opposing the permit. And that must be some kind of record. They were not expected. These comments cited concerns about Cliff's inadequate biological surveys in the area, like the presence of the American bald eagle and other protected species. They also cited insufficient consideration of feasible site alternatives and wetland and stream mitigation areas, and the substantial cumulative impact of the two mines, Tilden and its sister Empire, when considered together. And with some cautious optimism, I'm here to tell you that as of June 20th, Cliffs withdrew their permit application. So we're going to keep monitoring this issue, and we do expect them to resubmit later this year. But we're again cautiously optimistic that this might mean that they're going to avoid the Ely Creek wetlands. So yeah, this is a pretty big win for now. So we're pretty excited to learn that. Yeah. And then I also wanted to talk about the Copperwood mine. So to give you a little bit of background on that one, this is a proposed copper sulfide mine directly on Lake Superior out on the western edge of Porcupine Mountain State Park. You see in this map that the mining company hopes to mine underneath the park itself, and as close as 100 feet from Lake Superior, or closer if they can get it permitted, but permits don't exist for that kind of thing yet. And hopefully they never will. Our principal concern with this project is over the proposed tailings dam, which is pictured here. And because the mine has an average ore grade of 1.5%, that means most of what they take out of the ground, 98.5%, will be waste. And they plan to store that waste permanently in a 323-acre tailings pond situated about 2 miles from Lake Superior on terrain that slopes towards the lake. Yeah. The tailings dam is designed to withstand 100-year storm events. But this area has seen 2,000-year storm events in the past decade, in 2016 and 2018. So yeah, we can only count on increasing storm intensity and frequency as climate change increases. This model comes from the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife, the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, I believe, and shows how the waste material would travel in the event that just the western portion of the dam was to collapse. And the takeaway is that the mine waste would reach Lake Superior in minutes, and it would be catastrophic, and there's not really anything we could do about it. So we're really worried about that. So we've joined forces with the Protect the Porkies campaign to raise awareness about this issue. And Tom from Protect the Porkies is sitting right here. So he was a big motivator in getting people to care about this issue. So we're really thankful to be able to be a part of this coalition. And our main way to stop the mine is to prevent it from getting funded. As of this year, the mining company only has about $50 million in the bank, and they need $400+ million to open the mine. So they lack about 90% of their funding. They were very close to securing a $50 million grant from the Michigan Strategic Fund, but because of ours and Protect the Porkies' great job of getting folks to send in public comments, the final group that needed to approve the grant, which is the Michigan Senate Appropriations Committee, chose not to include the grant in its 2025 budget. So basically, if Highland Copper wants to put a mine on Lake Superior and place catastrophic risks to the Superior watershed, they will likely have to do it without state taxpayer funding. And again, we're continuing outreach on both of these issues, but we're pretty stoked about both of these wins. So thank you so much for sticking along with me. That's about all I have for you now. Please take a look at this slide to see our upcoming events. We've got one this Saturday. It's our last Native Plant Garden work day at the Big Bay Pathway Trailhead at 10 a.m. And then we've got one coming up on Saturday, August 9th in partnership with the Superior Watershed Partnership, where we'll be doing a wetland walk through the Eagles Nest Community Forest. And that'll start with a work day at that area at 10 a.m. and the wetland walk will be at 12 p.m. So yeah, thank you guys so much. We're going to do the drawing for our door prizes. and then we'll have the band play. So this is the funnest part of the night. So we're gonna bring the door prizes over here, and then we'll do the raffle. So just stand by for just a moment.